Hi everybody, and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, guess where we are?
You tell me. I'm tired of guessing.
Actually, where we are at sunrise, and this is sunrise. It could look like sunset though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I assure you it's not, because I got up very early to take these pictures, and so that I could share those with you and everybody else, because I know you'd still be sleeping, right?
Oh, yeah. When I'm home, I'm an early riser, but I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
This wasn't 5 o'clock, really, wasn't bad. See, now that was our schedule, what we were going to do today, and of course we were already there. Where? Okay, where?
We're on our ship, and we're sailing.
We're in Esna.
Esna, and
Yeah,
we are
ESNA.
sailing down up the
Up
Nile.
the Nile, that's right.
I really think I have that down pretty pat now. We go up the Nile.
That's right, we do. And so we have, on previous editions of the Adventures Travel Club television show here in Egypt, we've been to Luxor and those places that were so exciting. But this is a very exciting place too. Esna has a very small temple, but it was one of the last that was to be built in ancient Egypt, and it's dedicated to the ram-headed god, and I'm not sure how they pronounce it. It's spelled Khnum, Khnum. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be the god that created mankind on a potter's wheel.
Isn't that incredible? Some of the beliefs that they had, which were so meaningful to them, and I understand that. But now, within our culture, and we think of gods with ram's heads and the falcons and all of the different deities that they put such stress and such faith in, that we in our culture now can't quite comprehend that, can we? Or at least in mine, I should maybe use just myself exclusively.
Yeah, well, you do find a lot of different people believing in a lot of different things. I think even today, especially some of the things that we would consider cult things, but everybody's entitled to their own belief.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we're going now through the little market area, and Betty, I was looking there to see if I could find you you wanted a pair of really fancy pants there, but we didn't find them right there.
No, but I these are the things that are fun to me.
Right.
I love looking at all of this antiquity too, and the temples, but then for me to get down with the people and
believe
mingle with them is such fun.
And there were a lot of people. In fact, I'm holding the camera as we're going down a ladder, literally. And the reason I did that is to show you that even though this was off season, there are still a lot of people around, and there are a lot of people around here at this particular temple. But look at it; it's really in such good shape. I mean, the preservation, and they're still doing. What's so exciting is that they're still doing a lot of excavation, as we'll see during our program here today. And I'm sure when we go back to Egypt again, we're going to see that this whole area is totally excavated. And you can see we walked down, so we're going. The town that was almost above and around this. But let's listen to our guide as he explains a little bit more for us.
I am going to talk after leaving Luxor, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to visit some temples known as Greco-Roman temples. Although Greek rulers and Roman emperors did nothing, or they didn't bring some to work to pray, but they dated back to the time those successors of the pharaohs, after ruling for 3,000 years, the beginning 3200 BC till 332 BC. You may remember we could divide them into 30 dynasties. Sometimes Thebes was a capital, sometimes Memphis in the north was that capital. The first pharaoh, one called Menna, who succeeded to unite the two lands. And his high priest gave him title that became as a rule followed by all generations after that. One of them the ruler of the two lands, the son of the sun, and so on. 340 BC, a man came to the throne called Nectanebus. He ruled around 8 years, 332, when Alexander the Great came and he stopped the succession of the pharaohs, but he claimed that he was a pharaoh. In fact, they followed the same religion. We saw a big chapel built in Karnak adjoining to that Holy of Holies. We saw also a chapel built in Luxor temple. On them they illustrated him as a pharaoh before Amun, before Min, the god of fertility. And after him, Ptolemy the first came to the throne. He stayed in Alexandria, the town of Alexander, to be a capital for 3 centuries. 13 men and 1 lady, Cleopatra the 7th or Cleopatra the last, all together ruled till 30 BC. Next, the country became Roman province till the time of the Arabs, 642 AD. But that religion ended in 379 AD. Most of those temples we call Greco-Roman temples dated back to the 2nd century BC till the end of the 2nd century AD. We visit now Esna temple, in the afternoon Komombo, Edfu temple, and tomorrow Komombo in the morning, Philae in the afternoon. Esna, this town around 60 kilometers to the south of Luxor, 60 kilometers to the north of Edfu. We are exactly in the center of the town, in which 100,000 living. The main job, agriculture. The only temple they built here, dedicated to the god Khnum, K-H-N-U-M. It was ram-headed god, the god of creation, one who made their bodies on his potter's wheel. They had one called Bitah, the god of the souls. The temple had a pylon. If we excavate here and we remove that wall, we may find the remains of the 2 towers, the facade, and open court after that, in which should be 3 rows of columns, one behind the towers and 2 more. We see that in the afternoon. 2 halls of columns, there is only one, in which 24 columns. The place of the second, the hall of columns back there, we see it later. Antechamber rooms, the Holy of Holies. Some rooms should be around the Holy of Holies as storerooms. At last, the outside corridor and the enclosure wall. So we expect the end of the temple near that yellow house up there. When centuries went by, everything here fell down and covered. It was discovered by Napoleon's soldiers in 1799. You may know that Napoleon invaded Egypt 1798 till 1801. Mamelukes, the rulers of the country before him, caused a lot of troubles to his military camps. When they fired them, they attacked them, and they ran back to the south. He decided to stop them forever. He sent his soldiers, and they came. They had luckily a camp in this area. Perhaps while excavating to fix the pools of the tents, they touched some rocks, they cleared them, they left their graffiti, and they went after that to Aswan. Tomorrow afternoon, we will see their graffiti in the doorway of Philae temple. Here you can't see it. It's above the capitals, the very 3 capitals to the right-hand side back there. For the second time, something was done in this temple, 1840, the time of Muhammad Ali Pasha. They cleared this open court, but it was used after that as a store for his gunpowder. 1860, Mariette came to work. He could clear and restore that hall of columns. Since that time, not big job done in Esna. Few days ago, they came back to work. Look at them, they are excavating, and they could rehouse some families, and they will do the same for the rest of them. Nearly 2 or 3 only houses still liquefied, and they will remove them within a few days. We can see in Esna a clear example to show the level of the town now and in the past. The temple should be higher than any other building, few feet. Now we came down 14 meters. That is the facade of the temple. It was built up to the half, leaving the upper half 2,000 years ago to be used as windows, so as to provide the place with air and light. And few years ago, the Department of Antiquities here fixes that screen to keep away birds and bats.
Well, it's a good thing that they did cover that to keep those birds out, you know, and the bugs and things, because there are a few bugs and a few flies around.
Oh, there were a few, quite a few. But, you know, Marv, if you watch the workers, evidently they have plenty of help there. But see, so much of it at the hand. Look at, they don't walk too fast, though, do they? Going from place to place.
If you had to carry that big a load, I don't think you would walk too fast either.
No, in the shoulders. Anyway, it's hot.
I just want to reiterate one thing. He did mention that like the yellow house there in the background. Now, all of that stuff is going to will be removed because they're going to excavate clear on back. They think that there's more of this particular temple area, and being that this was one of the last temples that was built in ancient Egypt, they know how a lot of these were laid out. Or he said, like in front of it, there should have been some more pillars or the watchtowers, and that there should be some more in the back. So I suspect that the next time that people visit Egypt, that they're going to see a lot of that would be gone if they move a little faster.
If they move a little faster, but the thing that amazes me is the fact that at one time 100,000 people lived there.
That's what lives there now, he said.
Oh no!
I thought that's what he said. Wasn't that it?
No, I'm sorry.
That's what I thought.
No.
Well, we'll just have to go back and find out all over again, won't we then?
Oh,
well, let's listen to the rest of his dialogue, shall
we? Before the time of the pharaohs, or before 3200 BC, the country was divided into two parts. That is why there were two rulers and two capitals. One near Edfu, called Nakhib, in which a ruler lived and he had his white crown. One in another town to the north of Cairo called Butu, in which a ruler lived and he had his red crown. After the union of the two lands, the third one appeared, what we call the double crown. If you look at this hymn, how this is the first crown. That was the crown of the south. The crown of the north, like this, which was red. When Menna came to the throne, the third one appeared. You put them together, so it would be something like this. And here's something to tie. That was what we call the double crown. Above the two scenes, you can see cartouches of the late Roman emperors, because the beginning was inside. Always they began with the innermost place you see when you come in a temple. Or when you come in a temple, you meet the last thing they built. So you can say 200 AD, these scenes in front of you. We go next to have a look at them again, and after that we go inside to tell about reliefs inside Esna temple.
The exciting thing here, Betty, is that this is still in a good state of repair, even though they're doing a lot of excavation. Now we're going to see some of these graphs here and see how the slaves were treated at one particular time.
You can see, ladies and gentlemen, one of the very famous scenes decorates mostly the facade of the temple, the banishment of the slave before the god or the goddess of the temple. The king is holding that group of slaves by collected hairs, hitting them with a stick in his other hand. They are raising hands to give up. They are from the north, on the other side should be from the south. The god of the temple giving him the sacred curved sword, and down row of slaves, arms tied behind backs, names of the conquered towns written in their bodies. So these are not the names of those figures, but the names of towns which were defeated. After that, one more thing I can show you.
Well, to me, that's really something to see that this is still in such good condition, Betty. I mean, look at there; he's got the hair of all the slaves there, and I hope that really didn't happen in history. I don't know.
You know it did. I just hope.
You think so?
Well, of course, that happens throughout history. That they were taken care of in the way that they deemed the right way at that time. But Marv, I was thinking, as we were talking about these pictures and things, that wondering if these engravings, these carvings, were done as an education for the people at the time, or for those perhaps that, well, we know it was for history, but how many could read, how many could write, how many could speak the language? And here it's all told in story form.
Well, I think your assumption is right on that, Betty. Is that that it is told as a history, and it's told, in the writing that we see here. So I would have imagined that probably during these various dynasties in Egypt, when of course the boundaries of Egypt itself probably change, from time to time, that it involved probably other languages of other peoples that were conquered by various pharaohs and various rulers of Egypt. And so I suspect that this was probably a very good way for most anybody, if they could read the hieroglyphics, and of course the other reliefs on the wall. I mean, some of those were pretty self-explanatory, given having lived probably in that time for those people. Of course, now we have to have it explained to us, but once you get a little bit of explanation, you can sometimes wander a little bit on your own and see some of these things and
have a better understanding.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like we do in school, though, when we start teaching children in school. You do teach with pictures, and then from pictures you go on to something else. But how many actually get to know the nursery rhymes from the pictures of Jack going up the hill and Jim? So it's very important. It's very important for the people that would not understand otherwise. And now it's important for us because we have the whole picture too. I know when I was one of my trips in Egypt, I bought a cartouche, and a cartouche has my name Betty on it. And it's done in, now
it doesn't say B-E-T-T-Y?
Yes, it does. I mean,
but
it does, but in the
hieroglyphics.
Egyptian, yeah, now that would be the hieroglyphics. We talked about that one day, didn't we? About hieroglyphics as the writings, and then the way of the religious aspect goes by another name. And
the reliefs, yeah. Oh, and look there, Betty. There's a felucca. That I wanted to point that out. We later on, when we get down to Aswan, we'll take a ride on one of these, and they look so graceful and so beautiful as they're saying. And of course, that one just staying there. But the other thing here is that you notice how far back all of this greenery goes. I mean, about as far as your eye can see, looking in this particular area. And I don't know, probably the big ones were date palms, and I don't know if the others were bananas or just what they were growing right there. But you can go, as you go down the river, you look on one side and you see this beautiful, beautiful green belt that goes back maybe some way, and then you just look on the other side of the river and it's just as dry as can be.
I would imagine this particular area right here, where it is so lush, that had to be where the Nile actually did a lot of flowing over, and so the residual of the soil gave them this wonderful loamy soil to grow these things, and the other side just got left out.
Probably so. Well, maybe the other side was a little bit higher, and that's probably why. Yeah, because in the days, when the Nile did flood, it brought a lot of the soil from the other, deep in the heart of Africa, I guess, to this area, of course, of Egypt. And so that's why I think we can see why all of these crops are grown there. And of course, we should mention too, one of the crops which we haven't seen here, and I think it's probably maybe up toward Cairo more, is the cotton, the Egyptian cotton. The Egyptians are known for their very, very fine cotton.
Marv, we just passed a little, well, I don't even guess you could call it a settlement. It would be probably a couple of families living there that do the cultivating of the land. It's probably was there, it would look kind of a faraway place to be living, but I guess they survive.
I think so, but we're on the main highway right now.
Well, that's
which is
right.
The Nile.
The Nile is, you're sure right.
It definitely is the main highway, and of course you can see as we come into some of these
look
little
at the condominiums.
Yeah, right, yeah. And a lot of these are we see two and a half stories on here. As we get further to the south, we probably see more of the Nubian influence. When the Aswan Dam was built, and Lake Nasser, which covers such a huge area, because we flew over part of it, and we will as we get into one of the other programs. It is just amazing that how much of the area that it actually took over and flooded. But the Nubian people from the south, which is probably Sudan, at that time, then were relocated, and they were relocated. Some of them here along the Nile, probably more so down to the south toward Aswan. But I think a lot of their customs from the book that I read, that you gave me, and that I read on this trip, which was absolutely marvelous. I think a lot of their influence went into some of the building, not necessarily the stuff that we're seeing right here, but as we get a little further down, and we've seen in I think the last program, mainly the sort of the mud brick, but on the inside that it was sort of plastered, and they had colored it, and even the floors, and they were very, very clean, even though you say mud, well, what, but that was a very, very good building material, probably the only building material that they had at that time.
Marv, as we just passed that community that I was making a joke about condominiums, did that have a name? Was that some place that I should know? Or was that
I think it was just one of the many
huh?
hundreds and hundreds of little settlements along the river, right? I didn't see a sign out there to give you a name.
Well, I just thought you knew all the answers to everything.
No, not
now, here's
really.
our contrast that we were talking about.
Yeah.
The river
sure.
just didn't overflow there, I'm afraid.
I don't think so. Well, as you can see, the land is a little bit higher over here, but boy, that does look, it looks pretty dry. And of course, you don't see much in the way of rain.
No, but I would guess one of these days they'll find a way to bring that river into the soil there by means of irrigation, and in 10, 20 years from now, we might come here and find all of this being
Changed.
under cultivation.
That's
too.
true.
The
It
water's
could be.
there.
Yeah, and we talked about the main highway. I wasn't joking too much about that, but off in the distance there is another highway that runs right alongside the Nile River. And this, you can see the trails going up there too on top, and of course there's some vegetation up there, because every now and then you'll see maybe some goats or some sheep off on these areas that you wouldn't think that they would be able to survive on, but they do, and it looked then again real close to the riverbank. Mm-hmm. And of course that probably was that rich soil that for centuries and centuries when the Nile did overflow, probably left that silt and that really good rich soil right there. So you can see a lot of things that are growing there, at least a lot of things that are green.
Yeah, and then see, when you get something like that, then when it dies, it goes back into the soil and makes more soil. So you do need vegetation, and that's why they put up so much in for erosion too, because it grabs the soil and then you don't lose that topsoil.
Yeah, and as we go through by some of these little villages, we will see that there are sort of retaining walls there. Don't happen to be right here what we're looking at, but we did see that with stones there, so that and there are a lot of boats that are going up and down this river all the time, so that some of the wake on that is not going to eat into the side of the banks, especially where those little villages are. So they protected that. They protected that very well.
Now, by just looking at the Nile, we would never think of it as ever being turbulent at all, because as we were going down, it was very peaceful. But when we read that story, when they were in their felucca coming down the Nile, they ran into quite a turbulence. Remember, the boat got almost sunk, and they were having a lot of problems with it.
I think it was a storm that ran, and that probably was very, very unusual.
I would think so.
Now, Betty, they're back. Well, what we just saw there with probably some of that Nubian influence, I suspect, in the buildings. Not right here. This is a more of a little commercial area. As we say, you see a lot of these barges up and down the Nile all the time, and they're hauling a lot of goods left and right. And it's just an awful lot of the commerce that is going on there, besides the tourist commerce, of course, which we're part of right now, being on the tour boats as such. So it was quite exciting to see how many things were actually going on, because there's so many areas of the Nile that we are sailing on that just seem to be so peaceful, and there's
very
nothing
placid.
there. Right?
I don't see anything exciting right about this part right here. To me, exciting comes when when there is excitement around, and there's activity and people and bargaining and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
but you do need the peacefulness.
You do need the peacefulness,
yes,
and I think
agree.
that is one of the things that was, to me, that was so exciting about this particular trip, in that because a cruise naturally can always be very, very relaxing, which this was, and then you stop and you get off and you go back to see some of the temples and some of the ruins and have beautiful explanations on these things, and then you turn around and you come back and you're back on
meals.
have good meals, and you're in your air conditioned ship, as it were, too, because it does get a little bit warm in in this area. Just a
A
little
little
bit.
warm. Yeah, I think we could
Well,
spell
you can see
that H-O-T.
everybody's in shorts, you know, here on top deck out here, and this was nice because there was always a breeze there. They had a bar that was set up. There was music that was playing. A lot of people just came up here to read if they didn't want to do it in their
Yeah.
their staterooms. They
I fell
could.
asleep a lot up there. You know, it's so peaceful,
Oh,
and you're
I
just
know.
in the warm weather, and pretty soon you're sound asleep, and that's not bad.
No, that's not bad. And
Renews you.
This, I couldn't figure out what we were doing here. Now, what we're looking at is the sister ship that's coming in the other direction, and it looks like the two ships just got together to kiss one another right here. I don't know.
As long as they didn't give them a big smack.
Well, I know we didn't hit anything. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think the boats didn't really run into one another, but they were doing something here. I don't know. Maybe this was something that they do all the time just for the excitement of the passengers.
What was it Dale said? He says, oh, well, they just needed some Grey Poupon and mustard.
Yeah,
and so
maybe.
they stopped to get some mustard. I thought that was cute.
Anyway, we can see the insignias right here that are on the front of each of the ships, and you can see they're just almost touching right here. And they're the passengers on the sister cruise ship, which, as we say, that's going one direction, and of course we were going in the other direction.
You know, I don't know where I was when this happened because
You were asleep, probably.
I
You-
probably was in one of the chairs, sound asleep.
Well, I should mention, too, that there was also a big lounge area that was nice and air-conditioned. In fact, a lot of times when it got a little bit too warm up on topside, I go down there with the camera and just shoot through the windows, and
It's
it
quiet.
was nice. It was quiet. It was wonderful.
It is quiet.
Yeah.
There's not you don't hear any kind of noise. Well, we had soft music occasionally, but it's not like you hear people yelling and whatever. I mean,
no.
it is a peaceful, quiet journey.
And what amazed me, too, is that on this particular ship, there were people from all parts of the world that were passengers. I met people there were people from England, people from India, people from other European cities, as well as we Americans on the ship as well. And so that was very nice. We got a chance to, as you do with most any cruise, you get a chance to meet people from all over the world and exchange ideas and visit and really just have an awful lot of fun. It was great. Anyway, there the ship goes off on the other direction of the river, and we're still going our direction. I still can't figure out why they did that. Maybe Dale was right. Maybe they needed the Grey Poupon. I don't
mustard,
know.
huh? Well, that's a good explanation. Let's go with that one, okay?
Okay.
You
I'll
can see how informal this is.
Oh, yeah,
Clothing wise, it's not like one of your fancy cruise ships,
No,
pedaling over to, going
not
off
when
to
you're doing it
Europe
in
or
in
someplace.
an area where you have
No.
this much heat. But it was very relaxing. We'd like to remind you that we have a lot of trips coming up. So if you're interested, please give Betty a call at
488-7443.
and Betty would be happy to tell you about all of the trips that we have coming up. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.